Are you a professional pillow fighter? Or a 9-to-5 low-cost time travel agent? Or maybe real estate sales on Mars is your profession? It doesn't matter. Whatever it is you do, however complex or intricate, Monday.com can help you organize, orchestrate, and make it more efficient. Monday.com is the one centralized platform for everything work-related. And with Monday.com, work is just easier. Monday.com, for whatever you run. Go to Monday.com to learn more.
Well, I don't see the point in waiting any longer. So let's bring her out. The star attraction, the one you came to see. Ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only, Miss Judy Gold.
Hey everyone, I just want to say this is a very special episode of Kill Me Now because I'm not saying my guest is ancient, but when I was a kid, this guy, first of all, you know, there's people that are a part of your life that you know from forever. And I love him, and I've known about him since I'm in, I guess, junior high school. And his body of work is it's so vast and yet so diverse. That was the word I was looking for. And I am thrilled. And if you follow me on Twitter, you'll know that last week I just posted something of his because he has interviewed, I can't even tell you. It's going to be great. He has a new book out called Spike, the Wonder Dog, which is getting rave reviews. It is politically incorrect, which is fucking perfect for this show. But we're going to talk about his life, and you're going to buy his book when you're finished listening to this because it's fucking great. Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Bill Boggs is here. Bill Boggs!
It's true I'm here. I'm not sure that I deserve all that.
Oh, Bill, come on.
All right, I'll take it. Thanks. My body of work exceeds my body at this point. And you're right, I'm not ancient. I'm still in the game, and I'm having a great time.
Right. That was actually a reflection on me. So I said I'm old.
But I never like when people say, oh, you're dating yourself, because that's the life you've lived. I was telling somebody yesterday, I saw Elvis Presley, and they said, oh, you're dating yourself. Oh, screw it. I saw Elvis Presley.
What the fuck is that? Like, it's called life experience, asshole. I did something you'll never have the opportunity to do.
Yeah, particularly now. You're not going to see him. He's not around.
Oh, by the way, did you know Elvis Presley was Jewish?
No, that's a new one.
Yeah. So, I am my mother's daughter, and we would sit in front of the TV. Like, she knew every Jew, every half. This is the Jew bell. Anytime we mention anything Jewish, a bell goes off. But half Jew, married a Jew, converted to Judy, everything. So that's how we would watch TV. We'd be in the middle of a love scene and be like, Jew. So, Elvis. His grandmother was Jewish. He has a Star of David on his gravestone.
Wow, boy, I didn't know that. Is that like that Adam Sandler song?
Yes, that is how we think. We're like, oh, there's another one. Anyway, so I am of your, you have written books about, or book about how to interview people. You have done seminars about how to interview people. So I feel especially not nervous, but like, I got to get this right. But I do a lot of research, and I'm also fascinated by the person. And I think that that's something we have in common, that you've always been like very fascinated by the person, not the product that they're trying to push, which is why when you hosted Midday, which I watched every fucking day, you were doing long interviews before anyone was doing long interviews. So you broke the mold. So, but you grew up in Philly. Your father was an electrical appliance dealer, correct? Your mother?
Actually, vacuum cleaners. My father was
No way!
The vacuum cleaner man. He was the vacuum cleaner man, ran the business out of our home.
Wait, I need to know what the best vacuum cleaner is, and do you own it?
My father always, actually, truthfully, I think Auric is very good these days.
Yes.
However, if you have a lot of carpeting, You want
Yes.
to have what's called a revolving brush
Yes.
cleaner because it, as Hoover said, it beats as it sweeps.
Right.
Cleans. My father, I could fix vacuum cleaners.
Right.
When I was 12 years old, I was selling during the summer. My father set me up and I went door to door selling vacuum cleaner belts and the bags, the paper bags.
Oh, yeah.
And I made $100 during the summer when I was in like ninth grade.
Wow, that's great.
Door-to-door salesman. Yeah.
Wow. So what do you have? What do you have an Auric?
Yeah, we have an Auric. I'm saying to Jane all the time, we need an upright. But I have in East Hampton, where my home is in East Hampton. I have one of my father's original cleaners. I have a Hoover with a revolving brush.
Wow.
Metal, not all plastic, and it really does a great job on the rugs.
Do you think of your father every time you vacuum?
It's interesting. My father died in '82.
Right.
I think of my father every time I see a vacuum cleaner.
Yeah, I bet.
Working it. And it's interesting how I say to people, my mother, I don't say I lost my father. That always sounds like he wandered off.
I know.
My father died in '82. My mother died in 2010. But it's amazing how, and I had wonderful parents. I'm blessed.
Right.
How they stay with you.
Your
parents are going to be for good.
With you forever. I have to confess that the day we are recording this, is the 5th anniversary of my mother dying. So, and my father died in 1990. Not a day goes by. Not a day.
That's right.
Your mother, Helene, was a U.S. Navy purchasing agent.
That's right. My mother worked for the Navy. She had a government job. She went to, before she met my father, she went to business school so she could type, take shorthand.
My mother, the same thing.
There you go. And my mother was, a full-blooded German woman. Her parents were immigrants, extremely well organized,
right?
Very calm under pressure. Like Ice Cube would run in her veins.
Right.
Very calm. And so she excelled. She just started out as a typist in the typing pool, and she ended up being a G7 rating, a purchasing agent with a nice pension and everything like that because she was an intelligent, talented woman. My mother went to work when I was in about 7th grade and my sister was in 6th grade, maybe slightly sooner. And it was great. The fact
it was unusual at the time.
It was. And we were essentially just, middle-class family in Northeast Philadelphia, but we did have the 2 incomes. And so I remember when I went to the University of Pennsylvania, I had a partial scholarship to Penn. That my mother just took out all these bonds that she had saved, to pay for my education. Right. But that the scholarship really helped. I mean, Jesus, schools now.
Forget it. Are you fucking kidding me?
I know.
My one son went to IU.
Good.
Indiana University, and I can't even believe it. My other son's going to Tulane, but he's playing basketball for them. So,
is he tall? Very tall, right, Judy?
He's 6'8". He's 6'8", the little one.
Pretty strong in the legs. Good coordination.
Oh, he's great. He's a small forward. Small. He's an amazing 3-point shooter. Amazing.
Did you play basketball at all yourself?
No, I didn't, Bill, because when I was in 7th grade, I tried out for the basketball team. And the coach told me that I was too tall and it wouldn't be fair to the other players. I was almost 6 feet at that point, maybe 5'11". And it wasn't until like a few years ago that another coach at the school said to me, oh, he regrets that. And I was like, fuck him. Anyway, I was a nerd. I was a music nerd. I was in the marching band. I was in the orchestra. It was like whatever. But now that I have a son who's a Division I athlete, I realized I could have been.
Yeah, you probably would have excelled if your reason good at. What was your first? My mother played basketball, believe it or not.
Now, my grandmother played basketball. That's hilarious. Was she tall?
She was 5'10". My mother was.
Wow.
And she actually did play. I never saw her play, obviously. No, I shouldn't say obviously, but that was always the family thing. My father was an excellent athlete. My mother played basketball in high school. Yeah.
That's great. My grandmother was born in 1896. She was 5'7" and she played basketball. That's hilarious. But I think I would have been pretty decent. But anyway, so So you went to Lincoln High School, which is where you loved the radio as a kid. I read that you loved the radio. You loved listening to the radio and always wanted to be an interviewer. But then you went to high school and you realized, you learned how to speak in front of people. So the combination of this love of interviewing and the speaking in front of people kind of gelled.
Yeah. And little Bill Boggs was walking around the house with a pencil, pretending to be Arthur Godfrey or Art Linkletter on the radio, interviewing people. And then when I got to Lincoln High School, Northeast Philadelphia, 4,400 students, a wonderful school, and absolutely it shaped my life. I mean, I could talk about Lincoln High School for a long time. And while at Lincoln, I've had like a political side of me. Honestly, I'm going to brag. Since third grade, all the way up to the Friars Club, including my fraternity in college, I've been president of every organization.
No way.
I've ever joined, and president from fourth grade all the way up through president of my student council at Lincoln High School. I don't know. I just like doing it.
Do you, first of all, your sister must have hated your fucking guts that she had to follow that.
Well, my sister was mentally ill. To understand me is to understand that when I was about 3 years old, I knew something was wrong with
her. Yeah.
I knew something was wrong. And so it was like a progressive thing. And Judy, for all the gifts that I've been given, and I'm overly rewarded, my sister had none of those. And, she died 15 years ago and had a sad life. I mean, at her funeral, I said, let's not remember the cold black and white images of her adulthood. Let's remember the green pastures of childhood. Because we did have fun together as little kids, but the more. So my sister
Do you think she would have, if she had been born, 50 years later, it would have been a different story for her?
It's a tough one to say this, but I think with more enlightened medical awareness, if something was wrong with my sister, an intervention, potentially, she might have been cured. But basically, she has schizophrenia. I mean,
I don't know.
Yeah, what can you do about that?
Yeah. Was your mother really strict? I mean, I always assume German mothers were.
No, my father was more strict than my mother.
Right.
And both of us were, we were pretty good kids, Judy. So strictness, there were rules and we'd follow the rules and we'd break them. And sometimes my father would yell at me and stuff like that. But again, the blessing was good parents. And I think there's a song from the 50s, it's only the good times I remember. The older I get, the more it just like in memory yet green, everything seems like it was really nice. So yeah, we had an organized household. We ate dinner at the same time, and then stuff annoyed me.
Right.
I never felt compared to some of my friends and their parents and how their parents treated them. No.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever find yourself playing the budgeting game? Well, with a Name Your Price tool from Progressive, you can find options that fit your budget and potentially lower your bills. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states.
You went to Penn, right?
Somehow.
And you also got a master's degree at Penn.
Yeah, what actually happened was the reason I went to Penn was my father had worked at the University of Pennsylvania as a coach. And so
what did he coach?
Swimming. My father was a swimming coach.
Wow.
Yeah. And then he got into vacuum cleaners because he needed to make more money once he had children. So I went to Penn and they had the Annenberg School of Communications, which is really what I was interested in. I thought it was an undergraduate program.
Right.
In the middle of my freshman year, I find out, oh, no, it's a graduate school. So I went through 4 years in order to get to graduate school. But that was fun. 1 year master program is the happiest year of my education.
Really?
Yeah, Annenberg School of Communication. Well, you got into writing, more creative things, and television, and so I just wanted to get through Penn, Judy.
Right.
I was a fair student. I tried to take the easiest courses. I should have been taking courses at Wharton in economics. I was taking folklore. I just wanted to get the hell out of there.
Right. But then you got like a regular job and fucking hated it.
Yes, this is something when I did some of those talks. I wanted to get on television. I wanted to get into show business and had no contacts, but I was making some progress with Channel 3 and Channel 6 and Channel 10 in Philadelphia. The phone rings, and it's this Fortune 500 company, Armstrong at that time, Cork Company.
Company, that's right.
They make linoleum and
right.
And so what happened, Judy, was Armstrong says, "Oh, we'd like to interview you." So I drive out.
Wait, before you start?
Yeah, go ahead, Judy.
You had the opportunity to be an NBC page as well, but you chose the.
That's not true.
I read that.
Yeah, no, that's one of those things that somehow seemed. My classmate Barry Jenner, who also went into show business, was an NBC page, and somehow it got mixed up. I've never.
All right. Any relation to Caitlyn Jenner?
No. Barry Jenner was he was chasing women all his life.
Yeah. All right.
God rest it. Anyway, so I get this job, and I rationalize because it involves writing, because it involves producing shows and stage shows. It's like show business, and this is good. And the money
at the Cork Company.
Well, yeah, it's a big company. Well, they said Cork. They changed their name to World Products because Armstrong makes ceiling tiles and oleum and stuff.
Right.
So here's what happened, Judy. So after about 3 weeks, I realized, man, I am not the man in the gray flannel suit. I am not the corporate suite guy. I hate this job. This is really boring. But I now have a lease on an apartment. I've got car payments. So I'm slogging away doing really boring work. And a friend of mine named Jay Tarsus, whom I knew from Ocean City, New Jersey, was working for Alan Funt. He had a daughter, Jamie Tarsus, and another child on the way. Was making $100 a week, living in Coney Island, commuting to New York City. I said, look, it's not hip down here, but they pay great. So Jay came down and he got in the special promotions department because he's just a really funny guy and a great writer, one of the funniest people I knew. He and Norman Steinberg were a couple years older than I was working in Ocean City. I get this. These two guys, Norman would go on to write My Favorite Year and be executive producer of The Cosby Show. And Jay ended up in the comedy team with Tom Patrick, Jay Tarsus, and Jay ended up writing for Bob Newhart and Mary Tyler. And these are my friends.
Right.
So anyway, there we are at Armstrong, hating our jobs. And Tom Patrick and Jay Tarsus got together and started writing comedy routines. And this is hand to God, but this is a fable, and this is how it happened. One day I'm walking down the hall, and my love of comedy, I was in a comedy team in high school and college. I wrote comedy sketches.
Yeah, you're a big, huge comedy fan, yeah.
We're doing this comedy routine in the hallway, two guys back and forth, a little bit like Nichols and May.
Right.
They've got a couple secretaries against the wall laughing, so I lean against the wall and watch. Wow, this is great, I think. So what is this? And I say, we hate our job just like you do, so we're writing comedy routines. We've written 10 so far. I said, do another one. They do this thing about the toll taker on the Pennsylvania Turnpike, the ticket going back and forth. And now here's the legend is true. Print it. In the middle of the routine, I have this blinding revelation. We'll quit our jobs, go into show business, and I will be their agent.
Right.
And 2 months later, they were on the Merv Griffin show.
No fucking way.
Yeah. Yep.
And you were managing them, right? Or
yeah, actually, I thought I'd be an agent, but I ended up being a manager. What happened was there were a lot of like coffee houses that maybe it was 3 months later, but we kept the jobs, but they started working around at little places where I got them booking, and they worked. And it was evident that their material is really good. So the material gets polished up enough just in front of audiences for me to set up something with Merv Griffin, Tony Garofalo, Merv Griffin's talent coordinator. And we went up and they did 6 skits for him. They loved him and gave us on the spot 2 dates for the show.
That's unbelievable. And, do you think, like, first of all, that doesn't happen these days, but the more I read about and interview people and read about the older time, the days before, cable and everything, it seemed like, because I just interviewed Ben and Amy Stiller about Jerry and Ann, and it just seems like, if you were talented and you made a call or there were less performers, but there was more opportunity. Even though there were less, networks and less shows, it seemed like if you were good and you were decent at what you do, you could get on a TV show. And because the TVs, were the, everyone watched, that would catapult you into.
Well, I'll respond to that because I'm of that era. Just taking 2 daytime shows, say the Mike Douglas show and the Merv Griffin show. Mike was on the afternoon, as was Merv Griffin. Both of those shows were 90 minutes long, and both of them booked comedians who would come out and do stand-up. On existing shows, I don't think like Ellen has a comedian go out and stand up, nor do I think that they're introducing new people on the Ellen show or any of the daytime shows. So you simply had an atmosphere. While you're right, there weren't as many outlets. There were network outlets that were available for. I mean, you look at the stuff that Carlin was doing, and all the people of the '60s. Patchett and Tarsus broke in 1967. So at that time, Joanne Worley, Rodney Dangerfield, Joan Rivers, we met all those people passing through our lives at the Improv and a couple of comedy clubs.
Yeah, and it's just now, it makes me sad when you say that, like that when you mention these daytime shows and how they don't, like these people started as comics, you would think that idea of bringing in new talent would be, but now it's like American Idol or America's Got Talent, which is so much more of a reality program than, what's their story? They had a hard life and then we're going to laugh at them, instead of just coming out and doing a skit. I can't imagine, Ann and Jerry, the way they would do their skit. Ann would, introduce the skit and then they would do it. And the audience, it was great, but I don't know. It's sad.
Yeah, it's sad.
True. So you quit your Armstrong job.
Yeah, once I got on the Merv show, I'll tell you a funny story that's related to this. So we get the dates. We're still working at Armstrong, and they know that we've got this comedy team, but they don't know what we've got up our sleeve. So in order to get the Griffin audition, all 3 of us had to pretend to be sick, drive to New York from Lancaster, PA, do the audition, and drive back. And then the next day, so there's no suspicion. Now, we don't quit yet because we got to make sure we actually get on the Griffin show. So 2-3 weeks go by, we're working, and they're playing a little local places. I'm working every day at Armstrong. So now they're going to do the Griffin show. Once again, we have to pretend to be sick. We go up and we do live Merv Griffin show. Okay. Now, the president of the company, his name was Moose J. Warnock, and he had this beautiful blonde wife who was famously a lush, drinking martinis at 3. He's at work. She, of course, is just a housewife in those days. She's home on her second martini, 4:30 in the afternoon, and Merv Griffin says, I have a new act here. I'm introducing them to America. 2 wonderful young men. They work at the Armstrong Cork Company in Lancaster. She spits up her martini, right? And calls Moose on the phone. So Moose gets right now. So he turns on the TV, but it's too late. He doesn't say.
Right.
So all of my boss, their boss, the next morning, you guys weren't sick yesterday. You were on the Merv Griffin show.
Right.
And that was the day we quit. Is so,
Yeah. Was he enamored by that or just pissed off? I mean, you would think he'd be like, wow, you are the Merv Griffin show, but that's so
listen,
funny.
You have this company of
Right.
Fortune 500 companies, straight-laced people, coat and tie to work.
No, I know.
No female employees except secretaries, right? So the fact that these guys were on the Merv Griffin show was like, it was like Mount Rushmore for these
Right.
people. So when we quit, we had this other guy who was working with us named Hugh Wilson, who was also funny. And he sees that we got out. Hugh Wilson quit 6 months later, and he went on to create WKRP.
Oh my God!
And a couple of the police story movies, right? And that was all 1 year, and they're still trying to figure out what.
Oh my God! There must have been something in the water. After you did that, you started working. Did you go to North Carolina before you went to Philly?
No. What happened was I worked hard managing the comedy team for 3 years while earning extra money as a substitute teacher, and then I got a job on the crew at Channel 10 in Philadelphia. So because managing the team was like a 40-hour-a-week job.
Right.
Now one thing led to another, and I got
a job at the Betty Hughes show. Is that what happened?
I was talent coordinator on the Betty Hughes show, Betty Hughes and Friends. That was a woman who became famous because she actually lost 100 pounds. She was the wife of the governor of New Jersey. She had a great personality.
Right.
And she was on television, Betty Hughes and Friends. And what happened was I was set to move to California with Patchett and Tarsus. This story is worth telling. I had been managing them for 3 years. And at Thanksgiving, my mother took me aside and in a very motherly way said to me, "Are you happy doing what you're doing?" And I was happy doing what I was doing. I was good at it. I liked comedy and everything like that. However, I would notice that people would like walk right around me, not even say hello.
Right.
To meet the comedy.
I get them, yeah.
So, but my mother says, "So you're happy doing what you're doing, pushing for the boys?" Yeah. She said, "But these are exact words almost." She says, "But I thought you always wanted to have your own show." Yeah. She said, "So look, ask yourself this, what you're doing right now, is it really your deepest aspiration?" And I said, "No." And she just said, "Don't forget that, Bill."
Oh, I love her.
I know, but mud. So what happened, Judy, is this. She planted that thought in my mind. And but I was set to move to California with Tom and Jay, right? I had 3 years invested in them, and I knew they would do well. I mean, after all, they went on to write for Mary Tyler Moore.
Right.
Start right there, and Bob Newhart and other stuff. Anyway, they were starting a new show on the station across town, KYW, and Debbie Miller, who had worked on the Douglas show, was looking to put together a staff, and she was aware that I was this hotshot talent coordinator on Betty Hughes and Friends. She knew me from Patchett and Tarsus being on the Mike Douglas show. So she calls me and takes me to lunch and offers me the job of her associate producer on the new morning show and says, I've been trained by Woody Fraser and Roger Ailes in producing. They were the producers of the Douglas show, also done at KYW. And I'll mentor you. I think you have what it takes to be a great TV producer. I said, "Debbie, I'm flattered, but I'm set to move to the West Coast with Patchett and Tarsus. And
right.
I decline your offer." And she says, "No, I think you're making a mistake." No. Then she said the words that changed my life. She said, "Okay, I understand all that. That makes a lot of sense. But let me just ask you this before we leave. What would it take for you to stay?" Okay. With my mother's words ringing in my ear, I said,
"Wow.
You say the show is going to have a host and 5 regular contributors, one's on every day. You let me be one of those contributors on TV every day without auditioning. I know I can do it. I don't want somebody saying, how can Bill Boggs be on TV? He's just a manager. How
Right.
I'll leave. I'll get a new manager for Tom and Jay. They ended up going to Bernie Brillstein, by the way.
Oh, my God.
I know. And I'll come. That's how I got on television.
That is, you know what? God bless your mother.
Yep. Thanks. And Debbie Miller. What would it take for you to stay?
This week's episode of It's Judy Show with Judy Gold is sponsored by BetterHelp. And if you know me, which I think you do because you're listening to my podcast right now, you know that I am a big advocate for therapy. I think it benefits everyone. I think there's so many people who need it, who don't partake. It is so important for your emotional health and well-being. Therapy is fantastic. It is in every stretch of the imagination. And if you're thinking of starting therapy, please do it. But please give BetterHelp a try. It is entirely online. It's designed to be convenient. It's flexible. It suits your schedule. You fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. I have switched therapists in my life. I've had many, many therapists, and sometimes it's not a great fit for you, but don't give up. Therapy is beneficial. You can learn about yourself, you can process, and just be emotionally healthy. I'm telling you, do it. BetterHelp is great because, when I used to schlep to my therapist's office, it was so annoying. You have to do it, and you sit there and you wait, and then I'm telling you, doing it online is fantastic. And BetterHelp is amazing. I know a lot of people who've used it. So if you're thinking about therapy, go to BetterHelp.com. Let the gratitude flow. This is Gratitude Month, people. So you need to let the gratitude flow with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/JudyGold, JudyGold, today, and you will get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/JudyGold. You're welcome.
So you end up on this show. Do you go to North Carolina? You for Southern Exposure with Bill Boggs? Is that what led you to the next?
Here's what happened. So for 2 years, I worked on a show called McLean and Company. Okay.
Right.
I was associate producer. I was on once a week as Mr. Weekend. And, back in those days.
That's right, Mr. Weekend. Yeah.
The guests who came through, when did we had 9 o'clock, Robert, there was no massive amount of national promotion. One day we had Robert Mitchum on the show promoting a movie, all manner of people.
Right.
Through. But after 2 years, I realized I've learned a lot about producing. And I'm only on TV once a week. I made a New Year's resolution. I'll go anywhere in the country where I can have my own show 5 days a week.
Right.
I made that resolution, and I just sent it out to everybody, not emailing, just telling everybody. And sure enough, somebody heard about an opening in North Carolina. I auditioned. I got the part, and I did Southern Exposure with Bill Boggs.
When you went to audition for that kind of job, we all know what it's like to audition to be an actor. What did they make you do?
Well,
how does it go? Yeah,
I remember it distinctly. I had to interview someone about heroin addiction, and the whole thing was just going to be my talking about heroin addiction. And I don't remember much about sitting in a chair interviewing the person, except that I was keyed up but not nervous. I've been public speaking all my life. But I do remember that I had a copy of Time magazine with a big feature story on heroin in it. And I read that twice going down to High Point. And I did the audition, and Phil Lombardo liked me. I know when we talk about the book, by the way, and I'm not moving to that, but Southern Exposure, the host in the book is there, and his boss, Lombardo, is the same boss. They're based on that aspect. I'm not trying to move forward, but that was a really seminal period of my life.
Right.
In High Point, North Carolina.
That's amazing. Then you get midday. Well, first of it was called something else. Then it was midday with Bill Boggs.
It was called
Midday Live, and Midday Live with Bill Boggs. Then just midday with Bill Boggs. 1975 to 1987. You have to tell the story of how you got that job. It's fascinating.
The Judy Licht story.
Judy Licht. Yes. Well, I remember her. Is she alive?
Yeah, she's alive and lovely. I
remember her?
She's married to Jerry Della Femina.
Uh-huh.
And they live in East Hampton. Every once in a while I see her. So here's the deal.
Okay.
I had been with my show Southern Exposure, which I was in total charge of producing myself. I had complete control.
Right.
And I'm happy to say, with the right promotion, starting off, we beat the Today Show. We beat the Today Show for 3 years.
Wow.
Big rating. So what happened, Judy, was I had been in New York as a guest host on the Channel 7 local morning show because they'd used guest hosts. So when I would have a week off from midday, I went up and did that twice.
Right.
So as has been the case in a few occasions, Frank Sinatra features in the story.
Yeah.
So I was going to New York to take my mother and her best friend to see Frank Sinatra at the Spectrum. And in the plane, on the seat of the plane was a copy of the Daily News saying something about the show I was unaware of, Midday, that the host, Lee Leonard, had left and they were having guest hosts. But I made little of it.
Right.
Now, walking with my mother, I met my mother downtown at the Eagle. Walking across the street, I ran into Judy Licht, who recognized me from being on Channel 7 and stopped me.
Right.
And she said, they really like you were on Channel 7 and we're looking for a host for the show. I think, oh my God, this is like an omen.
Right.
And she says, you should get in touch with them. So in truth, I was supposed to go to France like the next week.
Right.
But my mother said, don't go to France, make the call. So I made the call and went up and auditioned within a week or two and I got the job. So if I hadn't run into Judy Licht walking across the street, I probably would have ended up in San Francisco because there was a San Francisco affiliate that was interested in me. And that might have been a lot of fun too.
Yeah, your mother should have been an agent. Boy, was she smart.
A lot of faith in me.
I just want to spend some time talking about Midday because
Sure.
Anyone who's listening who does not know Midday, go to Bill's YouTube, go to Bill's website. First of all, it was the first sort of talk show of its kind. And in that you did these longer interviews. You interview, and when I say he interviewed everyone, we're talking from Frank Sinatra to John Belushi to Gore Vidal to Norm Crosby, to the cops from The Son of Sam. I mean, just an amazing array. And the thing was about your interviewing style. And if you go back and look, like I just said, I just posted this portion of an interview you did with Richard Pryor because it's so prescient. It's so relaxed. Even your body language is so. You're so not in the face. You're so. Or it's so organic. There's no cue cards in your face. There's no cards, period, that you're holding. It's so, I feel like you were so ahead of your time because I think about the way I try to interview like that. I think about Howard Stern. I mean, he's become this,
he's a very good interviewer.
Amazing interviewer, but it's really, you were the first, really, to I
don't know about that, but what happened was in North Carolina, Phil Lombardo, who was a young man, a couple of years older than I, who was the general manager, really believed in me, and he would give me a case of this direction or that direction, but he let me have full run of what I was doing, and we beat the Today Show, and so it was in North Carolina with no pressure on me to perform, do this, we need more energy, we need more. Right. No, there's none of that I think I developed. I never really thought of it until you just said that. This is the truth, a naturalistic style.
Right.
I found that over time, what people said to me more than anything else, no one said, oh, you're a brilliant interviewer. People would say, I felt really comfortable. Yeah. And that apparently led to expediting conversations that were relaxed and in a long form manner. I mean, for example,
I feel like the guests trusted. You sort of disarmed them. Like when I look at some of the interviews, even if they come on like another interview, you kind of see them relax after about a minute or two, like, oh, this is not.
Well, I'll tell you one thing that I found, because the quid pro quo on all these shows, for the most part, unless it was a news story,
right?
Most guests were, they had a book, they had this to promote, a product, a movie, or it was a news thing.
Right.
And I found that with the big name guests, like, Yul Brynner promoting the King and I, Jerry Lewis promoting his latest movie, Natalie Wood talking about a movie, that right away I would plug the movie.
And
I wouldn't wait, get it out of the way. Now they check off that box.
Right,
now we can talk about your life, and we'll come back and talk more about the movie. Otherwise, the guest, I'm not doing it now because you said we're going to get to the book. Otherwise, the guest is sitting there. Oh, what about or they interrupt.
Right.
For example, the way that this would, and by the way, in my book, that it would be like
right.
Yeah.
Well, all my interviews have a part 1 and a part 2, and the part 1 is okay.
What I would encourage people, that the YouTube channel is called Bill Boggs TV. This is a YouTube thing. This is not a profitable thing or anything like that.
It's so good.
Yeah, just go and subscribe. Subscribe to Bill Boggs TV, and then when we put up things, they end up there.
And they're amazing. All right. Yeah. All right. I'm going to name some people, and you have to tell the story about their interview. Okay.
Well, this is tricky. All right, go ahead.
Well, first of all, let's start with Frank. Frank Sinatra. That was the longest interview he had ever done and had ever done. Like, that's it. You had the longest interview with Frank Sinatra ever in the history of the world.
And it was also the first time he was ever on a talk show.
Right.
I'm going to, I've told the story a lot about how I met Frank, but I don't tell what the prelude to it. So I'm going to give you the prelude to it. And you have to believe I have no reason to make this up.
Right.
So I love Frank Sinatra. My mother was a Bobby Soxer. And back in the early 60s, in the 500 Club in Atlantic City, I snuck in to see Sinatra dressed as a busboy. And I just fell in love with him. I thought he was great. And no one believed us. And we actually went back the next night, snuck in, took pictures, and ended up in the Atlantic City press that 2 guys who were working in Ocean City got in to see Frank Sinatra through the kitchen. And it was really a funny thing. Anyway, from that point forward, I started buying Frank albums, and I started to have a really pleasant recurring dream. It wasn't every night, maybe a couple times a year, but it was and in the dream, I was sitting in a chair, just like I'm talking to you now, and I'm having a conversation, and it's Frank Sinatra. Now, sometimes it didn't look like Frank, but it was always Frank.
Right.
Now, let's fast forward. It's Easter weekend, 1975, and Bill Boggs has somehow arranged with his friends to go to Las Vegas and on Saturday night see Elvis Presley first show and Frank Sinatra second show. Okay, and that's going to be. I'm leaving on Friday. I'll get there Friday night. We'll party Friday night. We'll go to Elvis and Frank Saturday night, and I'll fly back on Monday. I'll rest on Sunday, take Monday off from midday. Now, Thursday night, in my apartment in 63rd and Madison, asleep, and I woke up about 6:30 in the morning, having had the most vivid dream of sitting in a chair talking to Frank Sinatra. And again, this was something that happened a couple of times, but it was really a vivid dream. And I sat on the side of the bed and I thought, this is a prediction dream. This dream is forecasting the future. I'm going to meet Frank Sinatra this weekend in Las Vegas, and he's going to come and do midday. And it happened.
I can't, why doesn't that happen to me? What the fuck?
You met me.
And you met him, and someone introduced you to him, right?
I'll tell you what happened. But the dream story
Yeah.
So the dream story, I rarely tell it because you got to really be on board and not think that this guy is feeding you a load of BS. There's no reason to make this up. So what happened was and you got to recognize that I've never shied away from partying. I like to have fun. So we have been partying all day, including seeing Elvis and seeing Sinatra. So everybody is back in their room, like passed out, but not me. I'm wandering around, not thinking, oh, well, I'm waiting to meet Frank. Nothing. This is like the second time I had ever been in Caesar's Palace. It's 3:15 in the morning. I'm just looking. I ran into Julie Rizzo, whom, if you know Frank, was his right-hand man, a good guy. And if you want to hear this story, I'll tell it. Because of something I did with Sammy Davis Jr. several years before, Julie was aware of me through Ken Roberts and knew that I was this new guy in New York at a TV show. And so Julie stops me and says, Bill Boggs, Julie Rizzo, blah, would you like to meet Frank? Well, obviously, you know. I am numbed with drugs and alcohol now. So, I'm numbed by this. So he says, well, come back at 4:00 in the morning at the Galleria and I'll introduce you. So I had a half an hour to really focus myself that I'm going to meet Frank, but I wasn't even thinking of the dream, right? And so 4:00 I go over and there's Sinatra in his tux and a couple of beautiful women, and a couple of slick looking guys. And Julie says, wait a minute, because Frank's in a conversation. He waits and he gets Frank's ear and tells Frank who I am. And Frank looks up and says, hey, Billy, how you doing? And we talked for about 10 minutes. Frank was one of those guys like Bill Clinton.
Oh, yes.
We will focus.
And you think you're the center of the universe. Yeah.
That is a learned talent of communication. That's like not a natural gift. You have to focus. Right. So at the end of like the 10 minutes, and I did reveal to him that I had snuck in to see him at 500 Club, and Frank says, you're the guy? Yeah. Anyway, at the end of the 10 minutes, at the end of the 10 minutes, Frank says to me, I'm going to be in New York. I don't want to promise you anything. Remember, this is April. I don't want to promise you anything, Bill, but I'm going to be in New York with Ella and Basie in September, and maybe I'll swing by and do your show. And my reaction was reflective. I said, right. Frank, I literally put up my hands. I said, I'm not asking for anything.
Right.
And Frank takes my hands down, cups his hand over mine, pulls me in real close and looks at me with these cobalt eyes and says, Billy, I know you're not asking. Maybe I'll come.
Boom!
That's it, baby. He came. That's how it happened.
What was it? Was he on for? How long did you interview him for?
Well, he didn't do the live show. We taped it. We taped it late. He was on for almost an hour.
It's amazing.
No commercial breaks like this. My directions to the director were, when Frank, I want the tape rolling from the minute he walks into the studio to the minute he walks out of the studio. I do not want an audience. I just want to sit and talk to Frank. And we had a couple employees were sitting around. Right. It was a great day. It was
that is amazing.
It was a great thing. Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to part 1 of Kill Me Now with Bill Boggs. If you like the show, make sure to subscribe and please leave a review. It helps more people find this amazing podcast. 5 stars only, please. I'm very competitive and I only want 5 stars. If you have any criticisms, keep them to yourself. Also, if you haven't had the chance to pre-order my new book, which is fucking great. Yes, I can say that. When they come for the comedians, we're all in trouble. It is available for pre-order now, and it will be released on July 28th. And I just recorded the audiobook, so that will also be released on July 28th. Publishers Weekly, thank you very much, says, Gold's defense of comedy filled with great jokes and stories of censored comics is a reminder that freedom of speech is no laughing matter. So get the fucking book. So that's it. There you go. It would mean so much to me if you would check it out. All pre-order links are on the homepage of judygold.com or wherever books are sold. As you know, it is Pride Month, so make sure to follow me on Twitter and Instagram for all upcoming virtual Pride events and all dates at Judy Gold. That's JEWGOLD, like Jew Gold, get it? And I will say it once again, Black Lives Matter. So listen, everyone, have a great week. Thank you so much for listening. And as we always say, so long!
Don't forget to tune in next week to Just Kill Me Now.
It's Just Kill Me.
Oh. Don't forget to turn for part 2 on Just Kill Me.
No, it's not. It's
Just Kill Me.
No.
Judy Gold's Just Kill Me.
Just.
Just Kill Me Now.